favorite show when I was a kid was HR Puffin Stuff when I was really little. It's a Sid and Marty Krofft show, and there was a kind of crazy witch that I liked and was terrified of at the same time, and then I kind of decided that I would like to be a witch.
Gilligan's Island. Of course it was Gilligan's Island, because you could learn the opening segment, and there were 7 kids in my family, and we used to sing it together. There was no redeeming value for Gilligan's Island, except for the fact that we used to sing the opening credits together.
Yeah, I watched all of the cartoons. I watched She-Ra, I watched He-Man, I watched Transformers, G.I. Joe. I think perhaps there may be some connection to what I currently do.
Yeah.
Maybe I watched too much television.
I was a good student in the sense that I think I knew the material and engaged with all the material. I was a bad student, although I think I was a good student because I used to question everything that everybody said. And in fact, when I was in grade 2, I wrote a letter to the Minister of Education in Nova Scotia telling them that they got their history wrong in the history book. So I was a bad student that way, but I think ultimately that was a very good thing to do as a student.
I was, except for the terrible exception of this is so embarrassing, gym. I was very bad at gym. So my report cards would come home every semester, and you know, it would be A or good, and then she makes a good effort in PE.
Yeah, I was always a good student growing up. I liked school a lot. I always wanted to be a teacher in some capacity. I kind of forced my sister to learn how to read when she was 2 or 3 by playing school and basically making her my pupil along with my stuffed animals.
So I was actually an English major at Simon Fraser, and I really wanted to take a few particular communication courses, but the publishing courses were all 3rd year and up. So in order to take those, I had to take other courses to get to that stage, and what ended up happening was that I just became really interested in communication and decided, I ended up thinking I would do a double major. At the end, I actually ended up with a major in communication and extended minor in English. So I kind of flipped it around. But along the way, I just got interested in the ways in which communication affects our everyday thinking and the impact it has on society.
I became interested in communications through studying Russian as an undergraduate student, and I was a Russian major and an English major, and I really enjoyed learning about Russian culture, and I took a Russian film and literature course, and I really enjoyed it, and so I kind of became more interested in looking at culture rather than just literature, and so I kind of switched from kind of Russian and English into media studies.
I just found it really interesting when people begin to get what exactly communication is about. That it's not just about presentation, it's about making real connections with people. And so I've gone from a period where we've gone from print to electronic media to digital media, and in some ways back to very basic interpersonal communication through social media. And I think the basics in all of those are very similar around trust, relationship, engaging with people, and so to me that just seems increasingly so central to what we do, and being part of that, both as a practitioner and as a teacher, is an absolute thrill.
When students learn, I think is the biggest accomplishment, is when I feel like I've done the best job that I can do, and that's really rewarding.
I guess on one level, my biggest accomplishment was becoming quite early in my years the head of the audience research department for the entire CBC, which meant in the period that I was doing this in the 1990s, developing a whole new ways of looking at who and what audiences were in a digital media environment. Doing some of the very first research ever on multimedia audiences in a situation at the CBC where we were doing some of the first ever audio podcasts, for instance, and measuring the impact of those among people around the world.
It felt like a big accomplishment just to finish my PhD. There were a lot of struggles along the way. It was sometimes financial, and then just sometimes the amount of time that's consumed. And it's also very emotionally consuming as well.
Yeah, of course.
It's a big commitment, and you really spend basically, most of your 20s studying when a lot of your friends are moving on to other things like settling down or having families or traveling the world. So it's a bit of a sacrifice in that way. So I think it was an accomplishment to get it done, and I have to say I feel very privileged at this point in time too to have a job in an academic institution researching what I love, because honestly it's a bit of a tough road for a lot of people. The jobs are not plentiful.
Probably teaching high school or gardening in my backyard.
I might be a baker. I say that, but to be honest, I don't know if I would really have the courage to start a new business on my own. And also, the baking hours are early. I'm not so keen on that.
A jazz player, a jazz saxophonist, because you work with such incredible musicians and yet you're improvising all the time.